Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, my dear friends. I am very excited to be introducing Hannah to you and her wonderful program called Unplugged Tots. I would very much like to let her tell you about her and her products. I think this is very important, especially for for parents of small children, but for all the parents out there. If I had had this kind of product available 15 years ago, I would have loved it. So, Hannah, take it away. Can you start by introducing yourself and what Unplugged Tots is all about, especially for parents who might be new to your work?
Lovely. Thank you. And I'd just like to say thank you so much for having me, Adriana. Thank you. So I'm Hannah Hagon. I am an author, an educator, and a mum of two. I'm based just outside of London in the UK. And Unplugged Tots is a movement. It's a movement that centers around playful screen-free activities to introduce children, particularly young children, to the core foundations of coding, computer coding, through problem solving, through trying, through the whole idea of trial and error. And the core concept is all about play and screen free play. And my intention is to give parents and educators really, really practical, fun tools that spark this curiosity within children to help them prepare for the future of of the children, but also the lives that they're in now. We are living in such a digitally rich world, and I don't want that to impact on their emotional, social, and mental well-being. Because we hear all these headlines and things about the rise of screen use within children. I'm really keen to get back to basics and get our children outside, having fun, connecting with the adults and their peers around them, because we can learn so much from each other. And actually, as a mum, I've learned so much from my children.
Mhm. How old are your children, if you don't mind me asking? And maybe share some of the reasons from your personal journey that sparked this desire to explore screen-free activities. By the way, you're preaching to the choir here because I'm all about screen-free lives. Yeah, and just a brief mention, I was a blogger for many, many years since 2013. I really started blogging when I gave birth to my first son in 2007, but specifically homeschoolways.com. I started that in 2013 when my son went into kindergarten here in the United States at age 5. And back then, the screens were taking off with social media, obviously, 2013. But I refused and I put my head in the sand. And recently, this year, I started a YouTube channel and I was talking to a fellow YouTuber and she said, I cannot believe you haven't started a YouTube channel if your blog started back in 2013. And I said, this is me saying I don't
Yeah,
want screens. I'm a publisher. I like the
yeah.
written word. I like to see the words and read the words. But I have to realize we are living in a digitally rich, screen obsessed world, and we need to move the information on the screens. However, this is where you come in with Unplugged Thoughts. So back to the original question, what sparked your curiosity, your interest, and how did you get started with this project?
So my children are currently 9 and 11, but what planted the seed was essentially a tech event that we attended as a family. And there were robots, there were Raspberry Pis, there were 3D printers, and this was back in 2018. And my girls were just amazed. Just like their eyes were coming out of their head. Mom, this is amazing. This is so cool. There were like people with colorful lights and stuff all on their clothes that were powered by computers. And it was amazing sensory thing for the children. And then we went to a kind of an upstairs area in the venue, and they started to look at the computers and Scratch and trying to learn actual coding. And at 2 and 4, They couldn't read, they couldn't write, they couldn't, follow the instructions. And my mama bear came out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I was frustrated that there were barriers to my children learning these things that I knew that were going to be useful to them in their futures. So Unplugged Tots basically came from a desire to build a bridge between my children not knowing how to do something and then getting them to the point of being able to do something. But I wanted to do it in such a way that still remain true to what children love to do, and that's play and have fun. So I took all of the concepts of coding and distilled them right down into the core computational thinking themes. And then I married those themes up with various activities of craft, music, movement, baking, going out into nature and things like that, because that's what I had as my childhood. And, I think it's wholesome and what helps to nurture the brains of our brilliant children.
Right. And you're actually answering my next question, which is why do we emphasize screen-free activities? And in our approach, I did that as I homeschooled my children, screen-free activities for as long as possible.
Yep.
And I'll first answer this question for the from an American perspective. By the way, I love your accent, and I hope
Thank you.
I don't accidentally break into a British accent, because it's so easy to just, absorb it. So when I gave birth, there was an advice piece that I read in a parenting magazine, zero screen time for children up to 2.
Yep.
This is from the American Academy of Pediatrics. This is research from the doctors, the people who know what they're talking about. And then from age 2 to 5, no more than 2 hours a day. And to me, even 2 hours a day is a lot for a 2.5-year-old. That is a lot of screen time.
Mm.
um, I understand people are tired. I was a tired mom of small children. I understand we don't always have a human babysitter. um, but even when the content is good, something happens in the brain.
Yep.
So, tell me some of the research that you've seen about the brain and why screen-free activities are so pivotal for the early learning stage.
I think I need to caveat a little bit here because what I try and do is not cast any sort of judgment to families because I don't think it's fair because we don't know what's actually happening within the family dynamic a lot of the time. And so what my intention is to always be talking about screen balance and the fact that we know at some points in our lives we do. I mean, I at kind of 9 o'clock in the evening, the thing I want to do is go and watch telly. That's how I chill out. That's how I relax. And for for some of our children, that is how they want to relax as well. But what my intention is to get across the idea that it's not the first port of entertainment. The first port of entertainment should always be an unplugged activity if that suits your family. And I think what I'm trying to do is demonstrate the ease of um, bringing this kind of new way, well, not new way, this way of thinking into families, because it doesn't have to be difficult. I mean, one of the activities in my book is about sorting the washing.
There
It's a
you go.
normal family everyday activity, but let's turn it into something playful. Let's turn it into something where we can use it as a learning opportunity. And I
Yeah.
think in doing so, what we're trying to do is demonstrate to children that to be entertained doesn't mean turning on a screen, because to be entertained, you can create your own entertainment by using literally anything.
Right, right. Very good and very well said. We are not here to judge, or we're looking at research, we're looking at resources, we're trying to help, not hinder a,
Yeah.
a family that's trying to do the right thing for their children. The book, so there's a website, unpluggedtots.com. There's a book that's being released in October. You worked with
Yep.
Raspberry Pi Press.
Yes.
Um, Tell us a little bit about that collaboration.
Mm. that was really nice actually. So in my work, I do quite a lot of community events, and my children come along and help me with the events. And one would say that I'm the chief play officer of Unplugged Tots. I basically get to play with
I
kids
like that.
all the time, which is just an absolute delight. So lots of these kind of kids from the local community came and were playing. I think at the time we were doing Cloud Dough. That was it, because it was quite messy, and everyone likes a bit of mess when it's not in their home usually. um, and the founder of Raspberry Pi came along with his children, and we just started talking, and he said, this is exactly the kind of work that I love, impact led from the heart. It helps children get into coding without actually needing to be on screens. And it's building that pipeline of talent should they want to go into coding when they reach adulthood. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how it all came about, really. And Eben invited me to the office in Cambridge and said, you know, let's work on writing a book. So I wrote the book, and it's just been an absolute wonderful experience to work with the team there. The design team have created something truly beautiful. If it was down to me, you'd have stick people in the book because I'm not an artist at all, and that's one of the things that I say to parents actually, because there's this whole thing where when parents and children are doing craft, there's this kind of perfectionism that comes in, it creeps in. And I think a lot of it is down to Instagram and how we want to portray the fact that our crafts with our children are beautifully presented and they're the perfect end result. And I'm so adamant, I want to stress that the beauty is in the journey of the process, not in the end result. Um, because that's how our children are learning. And it's not in this insta perfect picture that you've captured with your children at all. So that's one of the things that I said to Eben. It's messy fun, but it's good learning opportunities. And yeah, so the book is just a beautiful testament to the power of collaboration and partnership, and I'm very, very, very proud of it.
Yes, yes. And the book includes play-based activities. Can you share one or maybe two examples that homeschool parents, any parents, could try right away with their children? And are there household items they can use, or do they have to order the kits that I saw on Unplugged Tots?
No, one of the things that I mentioned earlier, actually, one of the activities was about sorting the washing. So what we're trying to do is introduce this idea of deconstruction. So we're breaking a big pile of washing down into smaller, easier to manage chunks, which leads into problem solving skills when you start to look at computer coding. So you've got a big pile of laundry and you're asking your child to identify the different types of clothing. And what they're doing is they are deconstructing, but they don't realize they're learning. And at the same time, we're getting our washing sorted out. So everyone's a winner.
Yes.
um, so that's really easy. And obviously, you don't need any special equipment for that. The other one that I mentioned that is actually secretly my favorite one is the cloud dough, because that allows for a huge opportunity for children to problem solve. So this involves corn flour and hair conditioner, um, and it creates this kind of it's almost like Play-Doh consistency, but it smells amazing depending on the flavor of hair conditioner that you use. But the children have to create this mixture that is the right consistency to hold a particular shape. And that is where the creativity of our children can come in, because they can then create whatever they want. And I was at an event in the summer holidays, and I had giraffes, I had sun, I had snowmen, rainbows, but the children were literally there for like an hour and a half, just playing. As you know, the kinesthetic learners love this, and the sensory learners love it. And it was just an absolute pleasure to watch the
And can you repeat the
families
name of this
get
particular
involved.
activity? I'm sorry. Can you repeat the name
Oh,
of this second
it's
activity?
the cloud dough.
Cloud dough.
Cloud, Cloud. Yeah.
Okay. And when you say
And it
corn flour, it's cornmeal. Or corn flour, is that something different in the UK?
It's
It's
something different. So it's a flour consistency.
okay.
Um, as in like kind of bread flour consistency. So it's very, very fine.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it kind of creates this Play-Doh type consistency once it's all been mixed in. And obviously that's a motor skill as well that we're bringing in for the children, but it can get a little messy, but it cleans up very well and it all goes in the general waste when it's finished with.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the messy part. I think this is one of the many appeals of screens that children will sit and watch and not touch anything and
Yeah,
be clean, and the house doesn't look like a hurricane just went through. And so we need to remind parents gently that it's okay. This is how they will learn to enjoy science one day, science
yeah,
experiments and learning concepts of science by getting out there, getting into the mud, getting into nature, touching things in the home. Very, very important. Like I said earlier, the content may be excellent, right? There are baby Mozart videos, but they need the touchy feely
yeah.
3D life experience. And if we don't necessarily want to overwhelm ourselves
Hmm.
and make ourselves feeling guilty because we're not doing this every day, but even if we incorporate one or two activities like this, how often would you say for parents to try to aim for with their kids? Once a week, twice a week, every day?
I think start small because it's like dieting. We don't want to, you know, do too much too soon and overwhelm ourselves and then get to the point where we're now back sitting in front of a screen 24/7. I think the little baby steps would just help start off that process.
Yeah.
Um, I think one of the things with regards to mess is that mess can be just cleaned up. You know,
Right, right.
the mess when one of the activities is about going for a walk. So one of the concepts that I talk about is map work, navigation, and direction, because that's something that kids will need to learn when they look at Scratch and kind of direction in the sprites in Scratch. Um, but as part of that activity, we look outside and we determine what the weather's doing. Do we need to wear welly boots or Crocs? And if we want to go and jump in puddles, do we wear welly boots or Crocs? And you have this whole wonderful argument of, well, no, I want to wear my Crocs because I want to splash in puddles. Okay, fine. Let's see what happens. But we've packed the welly boots, we've packed a towel, we've packed, a change of clothes if necessary because we're letting our children problem solve, we're letting them fail forwards in a safe, nurturing environment to give them that confidence. So if they encounter problems again, they're not going to be scared, they're going to keep trying. And I think that talks a lot to this whole resilience building where we sometimes swoop in too soon as parents to fix problems for our children. And in
Mm,
doing so, oh, I'm I'm guilty of that myself. But in
mhm.
doing so, we're not actually equipping them with the skills that they need to do that when they're older.
What do you think? What do you hope? What do you hope that parents and educators? I saw on your website you've got a special area for classrooms for educators. We, as home educators, that applies to us too. But parents, educators, they will take something away from reading Unplugged Tots. How do you envision impacting the way families approach early learning?
I want them to have a sense of empowerment. And that kind of means I want them to feel that they can just have the confidence to just try something themselves and not have to feel they have to be watching a screen. The children have to be watching a screen. I think the certainly over here, the education system is how can I put it politely? There's lots of things that need to change over here in our education system. And I think there's been almost an over reliance on hardware and tech when actually I think we just need to get a little bit back to basics and actually remember that these are children and sometimes what they need are just the families around them, the adults around them, just to talk to them, because building up the communication skills within children, especially in this AI world, will equip them with so much more than, learning how to code.
Yes, yes. And you are using keywords and key phrases that I believe in with all my heart. You got to teach children how to communicate. You got to spend time with them, helping them figure out what they're feeling and how to put that into words. Um, the education system in the UK, I know, is suffering from too much screen time. Same here in the United States. They just recently shared statistics about 12th graders in the US whose reading and math scores are lower than ever.
Oh.
And it's very easy to blame it on the pandemic, but this
Mm.
has been going down. It has been a trend since before 2020. And it pains me to hear of yet another fundraising event for the local school system so they can get more computers, so they can get more apps or more tablets, or if kids go in there, they immediately receive a laptop and a tablet, and the wonderful people of Silicon Valley are keeping those tools from
Yeah,
their own
owns it.
children.
Yeah.
So that should tell us something. Looking ahead, what are your goals for the Unplugged Tots movement? Because I believe with my whole heart, I've heard it from other sources, and there are other curriculum providers out there and other authors who have contacted me and alerting me to the fact that there's a tech-free movement going on right now among parents. So what do you hope to see in the future? Are there any particular goals for the Unplugged Tots movement? Are there any projects or expansions in the future? And maybe anything specific for that supports homeschoolers?
There's lots and lots going on because I also do quite a lot of academic research as well. So I've just submitted my third academic article and that one was actually supporting early years children and early years teachers with the progression of learning. So we were looking at how we can um, see the journey of a child's learning of computational thinking themes from a point like the starting point to kind of the end point over a 6 week period. And that was absolutely fascinating, the data that we got out of it, because it was not what we expected at all. It was amazing. I can't say too much until it's actually been published, which is really
Okay.
frustrating.
Okay. That's fine.
um, but that and actually I want to kind of say a point about that. It's not the Unplugged Tots is not just a mum with a passion. It's a mum with a passion with academic intentions behind it. So um, it's not just a kind of a fly by night thing. I actually am hugely passionate about equipping parents with properly thought through activities that actually help help our children. And so in
Yes.
terms of kind of my next steps, I'm actually looking to help more working parents and more schools feel empowered and equipped to cope with the kinds of activities that don't rely on screens, that will still teach the digital skills that the children will need.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree, and I applaud you for it, and I hope it works out. And yeah, keep us posted definitely when the next expansion happens. Um, Pronounce your last name for me and for the rest of the wonderful people listening to this.
Hagen, Hannah Hagen.
Hagen, Hannah Hagen. And when you mention academic papers, tell us more about your educational background and what you actually do.
So I originally trained as a secondary school history teacher, although I didn't take that much further than the PGCE, which is like the first year, for one reason or another. Um, and I've always held this very strong belief that I love education. I just didn't necessarily love the system, if that makes sense. Read between the lines there.
Yes.
Um, but then when my children came along, I ended up actually before my children came along, I was an IT trainer. I was training adults in law firms how to use particular types of technology. So I have a tech background, I have a training background. And then my children came along and was chair of governors um, for a local infant school that my girls attended for about 4 years. So I
Mhm.
saw the other side of education, the management, the business side, and knew that I could help in other ways to help support exhausted teachers.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've got the tech background, I've got the parent hat, I've also got the education background. So I've got this kind of whole dichotomy of skills in my backpack that I can give to our parents and our teachers and our ultimately our children.
Finally, what is one piece of advice that you would have for parents who are trying to homeschool, or even parents who, if you have a preschooler and you are able to stay home, you are a homeschool teacher, even if you're not planning to keep your children in at home in the homeschool way. But if parents feel overwhelmed because all of a sudden they should teach them coding or how to think, because coding is important. Let's face it, coding is, I believe in getting the kids to know how to code. Even in this age of AI, somebody needs to manage the AI and the code that's being written by AI. So what piece of advice would you give to homeschool parents who are feeling overwhelmed by introducing tech skills without a screen?
I I want parents to feel like they can just try. And I think that's the key thing. Just try. Because if you fail, you're then modeling appropriate behaviors that your child can then see. Because what we try and do as parents is try and be the perfect parents all the time. And I don't think that's fair because that's not a fair representation of what adulthood is actually like.
Right?
And so I think especially with my with the book, what it has actually been called a toolkit for 21st century mums. That's one of the lovely reviews that I've had, and that's kind of what I want it to be. I want it to be a toolkit for people to just dip in and out of, to just say, oh, just I just need a quick activity to do, and it might not be that particular activity, but it just might spark something else off within the family. And the other thing that I just want to quickly add is um, play and learning can happen at any point. It doesn't have to be sat down. It doesn't have to be in a particular time. It doesn't have to be in a particular location. It can literally be anywhere. And I think we need to be not so prescriptive with what we're trying to do with educating our children. And I think the homeschool community have got this nailed brilliantly anyway, but I think it's just worth emphasizing the fact that opportunities for learning are everywhere.
Yes, yes, exactly. And this is what we know in the homeschool world from experience and just by reading our own books and literature and hearing other veteran homeschool parents. Thank you so much, Hannah, for coming to speak with me via the internet and
Yeah.
Zoom. Um, Thank you for reaching out to me and allowing me to learn more about your product. I am excited to share this with my readers and my viewers. And definitely keep me posted when the next expansion happens, and we will see you again, I'm sure.
Adrian, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.